This year of Living Inspired is sponsored in memory Lilu Nishmas Avram ben Yona Yaakov and also Almog ben Yigal. And we started last time the chapter about doubt and certainty, where we spoke about the fact that often with a human experience, is half of the challenge that we have, half of the difficulty is not actually knowing what is right and what is wrong. We spoke about the concept that this is part of the human experience. And in fact, it's really sort of something which is essential to the nature of our world, of Olam Hazeh, the Alma Desveka, the world of doubt, or the world of falsehood as well. And he traces this all the way back to Adam HaRishon. Because when Adam HaRishon, when Adam eats in the garden from the eights, it's the tree which is described of Das Tov Vorah, which means knowledge of good and evil. So it's not just evil, but rather it's the good and the evil which is combined. Das meaning not just knowledge, but also intimacy and closeness and a bond. And therefore it's the tree, when he ingests from that tree, that brings into him, that brings into the experience of the human being in the world, this closeness between the good and the bad, not knowing where exactly my pathway lies, what is good and what is bad. Then we spoke about the fact that Adam, after he eats from this tree and he hides, then Hashem says to him, "Where are you?" Because Hashem acts towards him in the way that he acts towards God. So therefore, when Adam hides, Hashem says to him in response, Ayeka, which means where are you? And we said that's the source of really all of the tzaras, all of the challenges, and all the problems of the Jewish people. Ayeka is the same letters as the word of Eicha, which is, of course, how we start on Tisha B'Av, the Megillah that we read. We're in the middle of page 55, and we're going to end off this chapter, put everything together. Admixture is a part of our world. By the way, I looked up the word admixture, and there is a mixture is when you mix two things together. An admixture is when you already have a mixture and you add something else that changes the consistency or changes the mixture in some way. Either way, this is a part of our world. The mystics say that just as Adam ingested a mixture, so we are condemned to do the same in our very bodies. This is the physical world, and he's going to explain how the physical world is a reflection of what's taking place in the deeper spiritual world as well. Our food is a mixture of wholesomeness and waste. Together they are tasty, but within the body, the necessary elements are extracted and absorbed, and the waste is revealed as offensive in the extreme. This happens within the organism of our being, meaning in the same way that we see within the physical body, there is good and bad which is mixed in together. So therefore that shows us that that is the human life. That is the human being's experience of the world. However, there can be a case where even the physical, even the human being, doesn't actually experience any waste at all. There is no bad even within the physical body. And he continues, when people reach spiritual purity, when some element of the garden, that means the Garden of Eden, is attained, this ceases. For example, in the desert, the Jewish people ate manna, they ate the mon, and there was no excretion. Pure existence can be fed by pure food. There is no waste, no lower side of reality, and no need for separation. Meaning, you have a time when, even in the physical world, the Jewish people walking through the desert, where there is only good at that time, where they don't have any evil because they're eating so-called spiritual food, soul food. That's what the mon is, and therefore that's why there isn't any bad within it. It's only the experience of our physical food, which has got this mixture of good and bad, just like everything else does in our physical world. He continues, of course, that generation's counterpart was the cult of Pa'or, the worship of excretion and excrement. This was an idol in which they used to excrement, they used to make in front of this idol. That was how they worshipped it, because this was the bad. This is obvious, he says. The evil forces work to focus on the lower and the impure, to present them as worthy of worship. In fact, in Torah, all idolatry is referred to avodas gilulim, literally the worship of dung. How great will the stench be when the good finally separates permanently from the bad and leaves it to decompose. So just like, again, in the spiritual world, we have this mixture of good and bad. This is a reflection, or sorry, I should say the other way around. Just like in the physical world, we have this mixture of good and bad. This is reflected in our spiritual experience as well. And you can have a person where in the physical world, everything is pure, and then there is no bad. There is no waste product, as it were, even in that physical world. And you have something which is all bad, and there is no good product. Everything is only that bad product as well, and you can have that in this world. He continues, bottom page 55. Our condition requires a lifetime of separating good from bad, extracting the pure, the spiritual, the good, and ejecting the evil, exposed for what it is. Our life's work is to strive for this clarity. Everything needs to be examined for its element of kedusha, holiness, and that holiness needs to be extracted. The verse states, "Va'ani espol va'amalek." Hashem himself says, "I will bear and I will expel, forcibly reject the evil eventually." Meaning, this is essentially the job of a Jew. Where in this world, very much we're working within this world, but we're extracting that which is pure, that which is spiritual, that which is good, the kedusha, the holiness that can be found in anything. And there's a famous saying of the Kotzker, where one of his Hasidim came to him and he asked this Chassid, he said, "Where have you been?" "Been on a long journey." And the Chassid said to him, "I've been searching for God." And he said, "Well?" And he said, "What did you find?" And the Chassid said, "I looked and I searched and I searched and I couldn't find him. So I came back here to the Rebbe to ask the Rebbe, where will I find God?" And the Kotzker smiled at him and he said to him, "It's very simple. God is wherever you make space for him." Which means ultimately, sometimes we go searching sort of far away, but really within our lives, we just have to be able to extract the spiritual. We have to see what is the spiritual content. I always feel in a job is a fantastic example. Yisrael Salanter, the great Mussar teacher, used to speak about this. You can have two people doing the same job. Okay, let's say they're both, serving customers on the shop floor. One person all day is thinking of money. He's thinking about how much he can make. He's thinking about what's the next deal that he can do. He's thinking about whether he can try to get a bit more money out of the next customer, explain and sell the product in the best way possible. And the whole day is focusing on me, 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 me. The whole day is focusing on materialism, maybe the person's own ego as well. And you can imagine what that does to a person's character. Same shop, and another person is working on the shop floor. Every customer that walks in, they give them a smile. Let's cheer them up, give them a good day, ask them how they are. Next, let's make sure that they purchase what they want to purchase. Of course, they've got to pay for it. I'm going to make a living out of this, but let's see what I can do to help them. Maybe I can genuinely show them what will be good for them and help guide them, what will be the best for them, what won't be the best for them, give them a pleasant experience. That person spends all of their day doing chesed. Two people, same job, same shop floor, but it all depends on their attitude. One of them is unfortunately extracting the bad from every experience. The other one is extracting the good from every experience. And therefore, although everything is mixed within this world, that is what our job is. Our role is to discover that which is good within it. And very often a person thinks to themselves, well, I'm not davening at the moment, I'm not learning at the moment, so therefore, I was learning, the other day, I was learning the Mishnayos in Bava Basra. And they are talking about the way in which if a person builds, whether it's a house, a pit, an oven, where they can position it vis-a-vis their neighbor. So you've got to move at a certain distance. You have to have sort of, a certain measurement between your pit and the neighbor's pit so that you don't adversely affect theirs. Or you have to line the walls with something which is waterproof. In those days, that was lime, to make sure that the water in your pit won't affect their garden. And I said to him, everywhere else, this would be like the council regulations. This wouldn't be anything to do with Judaism, right? I mean, it wouldn't be religion, right? Nevertheless, this is a Mishnah. This is part of the Mishnah. Why? Because again, every single human experience, you can take something good. Do I care? I'm building something in my land. There's someone else next to it. Do I care about the other person? Am I thinking? Am I cognizant that I'm not the only human being in the world? And that's what the Mishnah is guiding us to do. So every single experience in this world, which contains the good and the bad, we can extract the Kedusha from it. We can extract the good from it. We can make it a positive experience. We can make it a giving experience. It's biyadenu. It's in our hands. And therefore, yes, we have this doubt. Yes, we have this world of falsehood. But all of that, as much as it's a challenge, is also an opportunity. Let's continue. A fascinating insight into the subject of doubt can be gained from examining the root words themselves, as always in Torah. I mean, if you look at the Lashon HaKodesh, and Rabbi Tatz does this very often, you look at the Hebrew word, let's see what we can glean from that. The Hebrew word for doubt is safek, that's samach pei kuf. And the word for certainty is vadai, vav dalad aleph yud. Amazingly, these commonly used words are not to be found in Tanakh. You can't find them anywhere in all of the biblical writings. Nowhere does the Torah mention the word safek, or vadai, doubt, or certainty. Both these words are of rabbinic origin. Now, we know the essence of an idea is contained in the Torah word for that idea. If there's no word, it surely means that in essence, that concept doesn't exist. And of course, the world as formed by its root in Torah contains no doubt. Things either exist or they do not. There is nothing in the world that exists doubtfully, tentatively. Doubt is our problem, a feature of our perception, not an objective reality. Sometimes we have things that we, ourselves create a doubt about. I had a girl today, we were discussing about foods which are cooked by a non-Jew, and one of the girls put up her hand and she said, well, look, what if someone is going through a process of conversion and they're on their way to becoming Jewish? So then in that case, if they cook something, would that still be food which is cooked by a non-Jew, or would that be food which is cooked by a Jew? And I explained to them, actually, there's no doubt about the status of a person. They are either Jewish or they're not Jewish. So however much they've learned or however far they are along the conversion process, until they've become a Jew, they've completed that process with the mikveh and maybe a bris milah, whatever it takes, acceptance of mitzvah, till they've completed that process, they're not Jewish. Once they've completed it, they're completely Jewish. So there are many things in this world, and especially the things which the Torah is mandating for, which there is no doubt. We are the ones who introduce that element of doubt into it. And sometimes, by the way, we blame the Torah for that element of doubt, whereas really we have to look at ourselves and say, well, I created the challenge here. I'm the one who created the doubt. He continues, and if there is no doubt external to us, of course, there is no certainty to the Torah, which doesn't have this concept of doubt. It also doesn't need the concept of certainty. Certainty exists only where doubt is a possibility. There can be no doubt, there can be no certainty. A thing simply is, which means the Torah talks about reality. And the reality of the Torah is crystal clear. It's almost like, the Torah can, if you're learning the Torah's viewpoint on different things, you can almost build like a building which will contain all of those different ideas where one idea connects to the other. Now, the challenge is that then to take the abstract or the theoretical and then be able to translate it. When you're sitting and you're learning Hilchos Shabbos, and it's all beautiful, everything is pristine, everything works wonderfully, everything adds up. And then you come into a house and you have this one does this wrong and that one does this wrong, oops, and he did this and she did that. And you've got to kind of translate that sort of abstract into the reality. By the way, you have two different types of people in the world. Some people love living in the reality. They can't talk about the abstract. They're not interested in conceptual, abstract thing. You have other people that live in the world of conceptual. They live in the abstract. They live in the world, whether it's academics, could even be in Torah as well. What we have to do is to be able to mesh those two worlds. And that sometimes is where the doubt is created, which means we're not sure how to apply those Torah concepts. And you can go to a shir which speaks about emunah till you're blue in the face and listen and inspiring and wonderful. But the truth is, when you try to apply it to your own life and your own life experiences, then it can be challenging. There's no better place to find that, by the way, in this week's parasha, because Parashat Beshalach, the Jewish people have the Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea, the greatest miracle that we ever had. What do they do next? Straight after that, they complain. Straight after that, there's no food, there's no water, right? Great Jewish people, they're correcting, they're complaining, it's not good enough. You just had the splitting of the sea. What more do you want God to do? This was the greatest Jewish miracle experience en masse ever. And then you turn around and you complain. The answer is, as we've heard, very simple. The miracle was amazing. It was wonderful. It was inspiring. But then they've got hungry. And when people are hungry, then they complain. Then everything changes. Then that whole beautiful, fantastic, abstract concept, all of it collapses because they don't know how to apply it to their lives. The God is the God up there, but he doesn't seem to be the God who's going to give me my drink or my breakfast in the morning, or make sure that I'm not hungry, or make sure that I can earn a living, and make sure that my marriage is going okay, and make sure my kids have a good relationship with me. That doesn't seem to be anything that God's interested. That there's that disconnect. This is the challenge that we have. Again, the Torah's guidance is there and it's clear and it's pristine. The problem is we are living in this world, and when we try to access and we try to mesh the two things together, that is very often where we have doubts. Where is the best place to apply that? How does my emunah make sense in the experience that I'm having around me? What does bitachon mean for me in my situation? That is sometimes challenging, and that's because of the world that we live in is a world of doubts. He continues, the primal, pristine world of Hashem's creation, the bottom of 56, is clear and open. We opacify, another good word, and confuse it meaning we make it opaque so that it's difficult, it becomes fuzzy. The word for doubt is of human origin. It's a result of the damage we do to our own perception. Doubt is truly brought into being by us, and we must fight our way towards certainty. As we develop our consciousness in spiritual terms, we can approach it. On Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, when we struggle for ultimate clarity, we say, Havadai Shemo, Kain Tehillah. So Hashem's name is certainty, so be his praise. The name we attach to Hashem, as it were, in our struggle to see him more clearly is Vadai, certainty. Hashem is certainty. The word for certainty, too, is of human origin. Our battle is to crystallize perception, to make emes, truth, shine clearly. It's interesting, by the way, because we also call Hashem Tzur Yisrael, the rock of Israel, which means the rock is that which is always there, that which is never changing. The Jewish people's fortunes go up and down, but Hashem is always our rock. Hashem is always there in a similar way to Hashem is always definite, is always certain. So our ordeals are confusing. That is their essence. Our task is to develop the tenacity to hold on to that truth, even when tempted to see it change. Our goal is to break through into clarity. That is transcendence, and that's the meaning of Ein Simcha Ka'ataras HaSfeikas. There's no happiness like the resolution of doubts. The greatest happiness is simply knowing one's direction. Even if one has not yet started along the road, simply knowing which road to follow in life is a great elation. Torah is that direction, and one's chelek, one's personal portion in Torah, is that road. Once again, in every generation, there are new doubts which are added. In every era, in every period, there are new things which throw up, if you like, the dust and make it even more opaque and harder to see. But when we cling on to that Torah, when we say to ourselves, right, I'm going to first learn the Torah, I'm going to make sure that I'm taking it in, then I'm going to be able to apply it to my life. That gives us direction. Doesn't mean it's easy, doesn't mean we'll get to the end of the road straight away, but I have a direction of travel, a journey that I'm working on, and that is really halfway to the solution. We will end there.